And the presentation today is Prepare, Execute, and Celebrate. Yes, you can plan your own confirmation retreat. Our presenter is Maria Kirk. Maria is the Director of Faith Formation at St. Francis of Assisi in Hillcrest. She has been a Faith Formation Director for over 20 years. Maria is a past recipient of the Bishop Harrison Award. She has advanced LIMEX certification and is a facilitator for the LIMEX program. Maria has been planning her parish's confirmation retreats for the past 18 years. So without further ado, here is Maria as I turn over the presentation to her.
Good afternoon. How is everyone? And I thank the Diocese for the opportunity to present this webinar. What we're going to do today is really go through a cookbook. I have notes and ideas that should help you plan and facilitate your own retreat. I have always been lucky enough to work for pastors who have been confident with my abilities. And so, like Phyllis said, for the last 18 years, I have planned my own retreats. I've planned my own retreats mostly because I know my kids, and I'm sure you do too. Many churches use what I like to refer to as a prepared retreat, something that they buy from a company like the Net, or maybe they have a local Catholic college team to present their retreats. Using a prepared retreat can be really good, or it can be completely wrong for your group. It might be too juvenile or way over their heads. Maybe the team doesn't really jive with the participants. Sometimes it's just plain boring. And if you're bored, I can guarantee you that the candidates are bored. So I thought, I've been to hundreds of retreats. What made them great? For me, when I go to a retreat, it's an opportunity to do something different. It was the time for prayer and dialogue and activities. It was being someplace new or doing something out of the ordinary. But mostly it was just taking time to sit and reflect about my life and how I live it. What makes these retreats fun? Well, I think it's meeting people that you don't know, or just getting to be with people that you do know and finding out more interesting things about your friends and their relationship with God. Listening to how God is present in their life can help you strengthen your relationship with Him. And so I thought, how hard can it really be? Now, really, this one is harder to answer, but I can tell you that though it's a very challenging experience, it's also very rewarding. The answer to the last question is that with preparation and activities that fit the focus of your program, you can do this, and it will be very rewarding for you and your teens. So let's begin. The first task is to define the focus of the retreat. Our diocesan sacramental guidelines specifically call for a retreat as part of the confirmation process. The guidelines also state that the retreat should provide time necessary for the candidates to reflect upon their participation and the meaning of the sacrament. It should include time for reflection and prayer, and it is suggested that the retreat team consist of previously confirmed teens who are able to share their faith story with the candidates. So your first task is the focus. And for me, that's usually Jesus. I have to say that the focus of the retreat has been on our relationship with Christ. How I present that material has evolved over the years, but having Jesus as the focus really gets to the heart of discipleship. How you choose to explore your focus may change depending on the program you use. In the past, I've also used our retreat to focus on service or on prayer. But for the last few years, the focus has been on Jesus and our call to discipleship. So your next task is, what do you present? Today, there's an enormous amount of materials that you can download to make the retreat and experience fun and enlightening. There are tons of YouTube videos. You can also get regular DVDs. And there's something I'm going to add next year called the Pole EV app. That's this one right over here. And it's an app that you can, if your location has Wi Fi, you can have the kids download this app on their phone when they come in. And you have set it up so that you have questions for them to answer, and the results can be displayed while they're answering. This particular app was demonstrated at the Mid Atlantic Congress, and it was a great and anonymous way for people to answer questions. So, depending on your own comfort level and the technical ability that you have, you could also have your kids make their own videos using their own phones. I haven't done that in the past, but I think it would be possible and it would be fun. But you, as the facilitator, would need to know your diocesan rules for videotaping minors before you decided to do that. Of course, there's a lot of material available for you at your local resource center, and you should use that as a starting point. The staff at the resource centers are available to help you find the best DVDs and other material you need. I always have 3 times more activities than I need. That way I have a plan B or a plan C if I need it. And by activities, I mean support material like journal pages or storyboards or skit activities that provide a different way to explore the focus topic and a different way for the kids to own it. Even the best laid plans can go awry, so be sure you have plenty of different materials for any DVD or audio CD or a talk that you use. You'll also have to decide where you're going to have the retreat. I like having the retreats off-site because it makes the location special. And you need to think like a realtor, location, 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 and time of year. Is it going to be, are you going to go outside? Are you going to be inside? All of these things are important. And where the retreat location will be is also important. If it's far away from where you live, whether or not the roads will be accessible in bad weather. In Binghamton, there is really only the Newman Center for a retreat location. Some of the newer remodeled parishes have beautiful facilities that they welcome other parishes to use, and that can also be a good idea. I also know a DRE locally that's used public areas like a nature center for a retreat as well. In Syracuse, there's Alverna Heights, but generally you're going to know the best locations in your area for a retreat. If you don't, check your diocesan guidelines. In our diocesan guidelines, we have a list of locations where you can hold retreats. You'll need to reserve this spot as soon as possible. Prices are going to be varying, and you also need to know in advance whether you have to use their food facilities or if you can bring in your own. That makes a huge difference. Also know while you're making the plans of what you're going to do if somebody can't attend. Can your candidates attend another retreat, a different retreat at a different parish? So you need to know in the back of your head, how are they going to make it up? Because my retreats focus on what I believe fit what we are exploring as a group. My kids have to make up the retreat with 2 other participants who attended it. It allows the kids to participate fully in what was presented, and it also keeps the kids accountable. Your next task is parent or adult involvement. Most of the times, parents are involved in minimally or at least by attending Mass at the end of the retreat. I have the parents write a love letter to their child. The love letter's focus is on how much that child has brought to their lives, what the parents think about when they see their child, what are their goals for that child, what are their faith goals for that child, what were some of the things they thought of while that child was being baptized. The candidates receive the letter as part of a guided meditation near the end of the retreat. Anytime you involve parents or sponsors or other adults, be sure they have ample time to adjust their schedules. You can't ask them at the last minute, and that means anybody, including your pastor. So be sure your parents and your sponsors and everyone know as soon as possible, preferably at the information meeting, what will be expected of them. In any case, give them at least 2 months' notice. The good news is that whenever you involve the parents, you have a huge opportunity to catechize them. Even when doing something as simple as a love letter to their child, the parents have told me that the process gave them the opportunity to recall memories and moments of their children's childhood that they treasure. In this letter writing activity, I have only parents write the letter. You want to be sure that each candidate is going to receive the same number of letters. So 2 is the maximum, and that's only if the parents are no longer together. I've also found that anytime I involve the parents, you generally have to nag them about what you want them to do, and the letters are no different. But as a final contact with the parent, I remind them that having a love letter written to their child by me telling your kid how wonderful they are loses a lot in the translation. And so it really is important that they write the letter. I have involved sponsors in the past. Admittedly, that was some time ago and when we used a different format for candidate sponsor meetings. But again, whenever you ask adults to attend, be sure they have ample time to adjust their schedules and a backup plan for anything that, for anyone who can attend. Are there any questions?
Maria, we don't have any questions at this time. Could you adjust your mic? We're getting a little bit of static.
Okay. Is that better? I hope so.
I think so. Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay. I'm Italian, so I use my hands. Okay, now that you have your focus, location, and you know how you want to use parents or other adults, it's time for you to form your groups. At St. Francis of Assisi, we use peer leaders in the process of preparation. I have a group of previously confirmed teens that work as group leaders at each of our sessions. I also have college kids that are home over Christmas break that I have used in the past. I usually hold my retreat in January, and it's usually the Sunday of the Epiphany. So my college kids are available if I need them. I separate the kids so that they can get to know different kids in their class, especially if there's more than one school district in your process or in your program, or if you have parochial school kids who are in your confirmation program. It also keeps order and disruptions to a minimum. For the retreat, the kids were prearranged into different groups, color-coded and all. I realized that when I attend a retreat, one of the most important things that impresses me is that when I get there, even for a day-long retreat, is there something I pick up? Is there a folder with some paper in it or a journal? It makes me think that someone has really taken time to make this special and that the facilitator is prepared for me. So kids get a different folder, maybe a brand new pen, and everything they need is in that folder. My peer leaders come early so that they know what is expected of them as group leaders, how to keep the group on task, how to keep control. And I always provide a gift for them, a little gift card, usually like a $25 gift card to Amazon.com or something like that for giving up their day. It's really not complicated. So now that we have formed our group, it's time for the timeline. The timeline gives everyone the schedule and it allows the candidates to see how the day is going. It also gives them the focus and the goals of the retreat. Using the timeline to introduce the candidates to what is expected and setting up the ground rules works for me. I treat them like the adults that we're confirming them to be, and they have always risen to the occasion. Resist the urge to plan 3 days of activities into 6 or 8 hours. I never have more than 2 or maybe 3 goals. Keep the retreat focused and simple with goals that can be achieved. Remember, you need to give them time to soak in what you've presented. But you can't fake this. It has to be well planned and well thought out. Always include fun as one of the goals. So goals can sound something like, by the end of this retreat, you should have bonded with have an appreciation for, and had fun with the members of your class. Have had an awareness of how to be your best self through your relationship with Jesus, and identified your journey of encountering Jesus with all you meet. And by I really meant to say intensifying your journey of encountering Jesus in all you meet. So those are the goals. It also may sound silly, but you need to feed these kids and you need to be sure that there is plenty of nutritious food available for them, as lots of water, as well as lots of water. Keep it healthy, keep it simple, but even teens will get sugared up. So your timeline can look something like this. You can see that the first hour really consists of arriving, getting something to eat for breakfast, socializing. Then we have icebreakers, a time out talk, followed by the opening prayer. I have icebreakers that I use regularly. And I believe attached to the webinar is a file of PDA files that you can look at and print out later. But they are things like the icebreakers that I use. This is the tricky part. Some retreats, especially prepared retreats, will spend an hour or two or sometimes even 3 hours on icebreakers. It allows the kids to get to know each other, but really the focus is making sure that the group leaders can interact with the kids and the kids feel comfortable with them to share. If you do your own retreat and kids know the group leaders, then they're there only for one day. And in my opinion, it's not necessary to spend 2 or 3 hours on playing games. What is fun is getting to know the people in your group and finding quirky things about each other. So the ones I use are called Timeout, not Timeout, are Stand Up If, and it's a series of stand up if you have a younger brother or sister, or stand up if you're a junior or whatever. And the other one I use is a roll the dice game. So whether I have one, each group has one dice or two dice, there are questions 1 through 12, I think is on the one that I gave you, that are just silly questions. They roll the dice and they answer the question. So they go around in their groups and they do that a couple of times with the roll the dice. And then we do together the stand up one. And then we do the time out talk. I believe in your PDA file, it's called retreat opening. The time out talk is really a short talk that's based on a book by Karen Sawyer. And I think her talk was called Time Out. You probably have this book that was printed in the 70s somewhere on your shelf. It's a short talk, but it reminds all of us that we could be doing something else today. And I ask them what they would be doing, as well as share what I would be doing. I also remind them that they are perfectly capable of not getting one thing out of this retreat, especially if they try to be disruptive. So I remind them to just please try everything. Maybe they'll learn something about themselves, something about what God is calling them to do. And again, I go over what the house rules are. The opening prayer that I use generally calls on the Holy Spirit, some kind of a prayer experience that I want them to have, because the focus of our retreat is always our relationship with Jesus and how to start, develop, and maintain it. The opening prayer usually revolves around discipleship. After this first hour of getting to know each other and setting up the parameters, it's time to have a solid presentation. Start your retreat with a video or an audio recording of a talk, or give a talk yourself. That's a little trickier, but it's definitely doable. At the end of the presentation, be sure that they have time to process the material in small group. Questions are already provided to the group leaders, and then again to discuss it in large group. You can see by this timeline that it is a full day, but it's not over the top. This year we used a recording from Matt Kelly for the opening session. It was excellent and it held the kids' attention. After lunch, I always take the kids for a walk. It wakes them up. We go in all kinds of weather except for pouring rain, and everyone goes unless they're on crutches or I've had a couple of occasions where kids had been in and out of the hospital, and so they took a nap during that. But generally speaking, everybody goes for a walk around Binghamton University campus. This year, I realized that in the new dorms, they actually have swing sets. So that was a bonus that kids could go playing on the play equipment. In the afternoon, you see that when we come back, I do a presentation on what is your relationship with Jesus. It's really my testimony, I guess you can call it. It's shared from the heart. It's when I really learned that Jesus was my BFF, my best friend, and how my relationship with Jesus has grown over the years since I have recognized that it's important to become one of his disciples. After that personal testimony, there's time for journaling. There's also extra activities. Sometimes I have the kids set up a commercial of how they would introduce Jesus as their best friend to strangers. But there are always activities involved in how to recognize Christ being present in your life and how to get to know him better. Then we have a little stretch time, as you can see. The afternoon, I generally do something on church. This is, again, on a file from, the file is available for you. It is taken from the same Karen Sawyer book. This questionnaire on church prompts a lot of dialogue. It can take as long as you want it to take. And if your pastor is there, it's a fabulous thing for him to do because it helps him understand what kids are thinking about in their church. And it's really amazing the answers they have for their questions. This is the place where I'm going to add that Poll EV app because I think it would be really fun for the kids to answer on their phones. In the past, I have had them walk to one side of the room. Yes, I agree with this statement. No, I disagree with this statement. And the middle is always Switzerland. But I do think that this would be a great idea next year to use that app. You can see that the next hour is, it says blankets 2 per group. I always have the candidates use some sort of an art project. The last couple of years, they've made baby blankets for the Department of Social Services. It's those little fleece blankets where you take like 2 yards of material and you make fringe on it and tie the fringe together and it makes a little baby blanket, which remarkably enough, I usually have about 20 of them that end up at DSS and they are generally gone the next day. So it's really remarkable that people need them. But it's also good for them to understand how quickly they'll go. In the past, I've had them do an art project for themselves. I've picked up wooden crosses at a craft store and had them paint them. I've even had them do projects with clay, but again, because I do my retreat in the winter, if you forget to take the clay out of your car, it can be really, really, really hard. And then again, that part of the retreat ends up not going as well as you expected. The peer leaders engage the kids in discussion during this group activity. And it's really a discussion of how it's going or if anything has made an impression on them. After the arts and craft project, I have the kids pick up, clean up, load up my car, and then we go into the chapel for the guided meditation. The guided meditation is actually a text. I listened to an old VCR and I wrote out the script of this meditation on the Eucharist, and I've been using that for the last couple of years. But you can use any guided meditation that allows kids to really get closer and have Christ with them. This meditation on the Eucharist has them imagine a family meal. It's been very powerful. I have unfortunately had several kids in my programs that have lost parents or lost siblings. And so this family meal can have anybody present, both living and deceased, and it allows you to see each of these individuals through the eyes of Christ. And then Christ takes them to church, and then you see the same people in your church that you see all the time. And and you see these same people through the eyes of Christ. It's very powerful. At the end of this guided meditation, I have I put the envelopes in the kids or next to the kids, and then they can open them up. Ending the retreat in this very quiet, reflective mode has been very powerful because it really allows the kids to process what's happened, to think about what's happened, and to prepare their hearts for the liturgy of the Mass. After this guided retreat, we start Mass. The parents are generally filtering in just before we start Mass. And it's really very powerful to see these big strapping guys, their parents walk in and they give their parents a great big hug. I have two boys, so I know that sometimes, when the kids get older, they just really are a little uncomfortable with giving their parents a hug, but it's really a very powerful moment. Be sure, and I usually forget to do this, be sure that you have taken the time sometime in the morning or at lunch to assign all the Mass parts, and to, if your kids are going to be singing, make sure that they know what they're going to be singing. So once Mass starts, you have a chance to take a deep breath and relax. Are there any questions?
We haven't had any questions, Maria. So if anyone has a question, feel free to type it in the chat box, and on the next round, we'll ask Maria.
Okay. Well, although the planning is time consuming, and if this is the first time you've done it, you may find out that it's more time consuming than you thought. But if you think it through and you take it through step by step, I think that you're going to find this a very rewarding experience. The most important thing to remember is that it's not rocket science, but that you have to plan it. You can't just throw this together in a day. You have to know what you want to do and how you want to do it. And as what I've done as time goes on and I'm planning it out is I actually look at the timeline and I actually go through it and in my head think, okay, I want to be sure this piece of paper is in the folder, and I want to be sure that this music is available, and I need to be sure about all these different things. But if you go through the timeline, that's really key, and all of your pieces will be together. I know that you can do this because I know that I do this. So I would just say to you to give it a try, and you will be confident. The more retreats you do, the easier they are to plan. And if there are no questions, that is my presentation. Take a minute to look at that PDF file. There are things that I use there. A couple of them are just pictures. The rest of them are, I always think it's easier to change something that's in front of me than to stare at a blank computer screen and have to write it. So this will give the opportunity to kind of look at what's going on and how you can change it and make it better, because I know you can.
Maria, would you like to speak a little bit more about your peer facilitators, how you
Sure.
choose them, and how much preparation it takes?
Sure. The peer leaders that we use are kids that we have identified in our confirmation process as kids who get it, kids that are not afraid to share their faith, and kids that are leaders. We ask them to do it, not necessarily they asking us. And I think a couple of times people have said, can I help? Can I be a group leader after I'm confirmed? And depending on who they are, the answer could be yes. The group leaders meet with our kids at each session. So they're prepared, they're familiar, I guess is a better way of saying it, with what we expect them to do. Their preparation is really with the catechist. I'm not the regular confirmation catechist, so when I facilitate a retreat, it's different for the kids. It's a different voice. Their confirmation catechist has met with these kids and basically explained exactly what she wants them to do, which is truly sharing their story and keeping them on task. and making sure that the kids in their groups share what's going on and are comfortable with, I guess I would call it God language. Is that
One
clear?
other question. I don't remember, you may have said it, when you give them the letters from the
I give
parents.
them, yep, the letter from the parent I get prior to the retreat. And I have gone so far as to one time, I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, this girl showed up for the retreat and she handed me, her registration, her fee. And I said, "Is this all your parents gave you?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Can you call your dad on your phone and let me talk to him?" So I said to the dad, "I don't have the letter." He goes, "Oh yeah, I forgot that. Is it important?" I go, "Yeah." He said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I said, "Well, I want you to come back here and I'll give you paper and a pencil and an envelope and you can write a letter to your daughter about this." And he did. And actually, he was really good about it. But the letters are given out at the end of that retreat. So at about the time I'm saying to the kids or to the candidates, "Okay, it's time for you to remember that you're back in the chapel at the Newman Center. Take time to come back to reality, kind of." The letters are there beside them, and the lights come up just enough for them to read them. So it's at the end of the guided meditation. On the retreats, we have at least 3 experiences of prayer. One of them is the opening prayer. We do some kind of prayer at lunch, kind of a glorified grace, but not anything major. And then this guided reflection at the end. And then, of course, Mass.
Okay, there don't seem to be any more questions. So I think that we can say the webinar will be ending.
Did Cheryl raise her hand?
Yes, she did. Hold on. Oops.
I
Go
just
ahead,
wanted
Cheryl.
to. I just wanted to know, where are these PDF files that you're referring to? I don't see them.
Really?
If you go in, do you have your chat box up? Go to the
Okay.
top of, and it says chat.
Oh, okay. I see it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Did Sally have her hand raised?
Sally does. Go ahead, Sally.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
So the PDF files, is that where it says notes? Is that it?
No, and right next to the notes, it's in blue. It should say chat. There's a bubble that says
red. It says
red. Okay, then click on the chat, and it should bring up a box, and in there will be all the files that.
So will this be on? Like, can I get this sometime after the webinar, or is it like I have to do it before I get off?
You can call me. I'll give them to you, Sally.
Okay.
I have them in a folder too.
They should. I think what she will do is, and actually, Andrea Slavum will add them to the when it goes into the archive. You'll see that you can listen to the presentation, and she'll also have a folder there that you could click on, I believe, to get all these items.
Okay.
Right.
But in case they don't, we can. I think Maria said she had a contact. Do you have another slide that showed your email? So people.
There we go. Thank you for reminding me. I just did that
You're
one this
welcome.
morning. So here's my contact information. So when you're starting to do this, if you have any questions, I would be more than happy to talk with you or meet with you. So I've given you my email address and we can start there.
Well, thank you so much, Maria. You gave a lot of information and lots of stuff to think about, and we're all going to go and plan our old confirmation retreats, right?
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to do this. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And I hope that the grandfather clocks that I forgot to turn off weren't too noisy in the back.
Nope, not at all. Okay, I'm going to turn off the recording now. And so this will end our session. Thank you for all who have joined. And we'll let you know when we're going to be doing another one.
Thank you, Maria.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Madonna.
You did good. I liked it. I got a lot of good tips.
Okay, goodbye, everyone.
Bye.